Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise today to speak about the importance of recycling and the need for a container deposit scheme in New South Wales. This is an issue which I am particularly passionate about and one which is important to my constituents in the coastal electorate of Coogee. Madam Speaker, it is simply unacceptable that each year in Australia more than 8 billion recyclable beverage containers end up on beaches, in our waterways or in landfill. Urgent action is needed to clean up our beautiful beaches and our communities, and quite frankly, our current waste and pollution of the environment is unsustainable. It's been estimated that our iconic Bondi Beach, a beach which is recognised around the world, is the rubbish dump for around 30,000 bottles and cans every single year. Around the country, 15,000 cans or bottles are littered or stuck in landfill every minute. 15,000 every minute. Forget about the shock figures which the soft drink industry throws around. No one expects them to be true. The suggestion is the secret COAG report that a national container deposit scheme would cost up to $8 billion is nothing short of laughable. As reported in the Daily Telegraph, the cost could be anywhere from 88 million to 8 billion. Now, if that's not an each-way bet, I don't know what is, Madam Speaker. Consider instead the following figures. The percentage of people in favour of a container deposit scheme. In New South Wales, 84%, Victoria, 85%, Western Australia, 86%, and in Queensland, 90%. In New South Wales, 1 in 3 pieces of litter is a drink container, while in South Australia, it's only 1 in 12. Now, charities could make up to $19 million a year in New South Wales if just 20% of the CDS was serviced by those charities. Our local councils could save $78 million a year. This is just in New South Wales alone. And the CDS would create an estimated 1,029 jobs directly and an additional 687 indirect jobs in New South Wales and an extra 2,029 direct and indirect jobs in Victoria and Western Australia. In April this year, Shelley Beach, in the Premier's own electorate of Manly, was named by the CSIRO as the dirtiest beach in Australia, with the highest rate of marine debris. Now, the CSIRO, the premier research organisation in this country, has suggested that a container deposit scheme is a clear way to help to fix this situation, fix this mess. I can't help but to note my disappointment that an organisation like Keep Australia Beautiful is so willing to accept funding through a trust set up by Coca-Cola, as well as funding by Coca-Cola Amatil directly. Rob Thomas, the National Chair for Keep Australia Beautiful, commented in a 7:30 report interview that, and I quote, "There is a Coke Trust where it's a general trust to be used in a number of different ways. We get income through there and we get income through Coca-Cola Amatil." Now, Mr Thomas went on to comment that approximately 1/3 of their income comes from these sources. So I'm sorry to say that I consider that this funding does nothing but tarnish the aims of such a great organisation such as Keep Australia Beautiful. So for reasons unbeknownst to all and sundry, Coca-Cola has been leading the charge against the container deposit scheme. Whilst I'm pleased to see that Keep Australia Beautiful offers beverage container recycling grants with money which is provided by Coca-Cola, the Coca-Cola Foundation, it truly baffles me that Coke is so against a CDS. The figures for South Australia speak for themselves. Almost 80% of beverage containers are returned for recycling. In 2013 to 14, nearly 583 million containers were returned to collection depots. Around 45,000 tonnes of containers were diverted from landfill or litter. The public approval of the South Australian scheme is around 95%. Now, like other forms of recycling in the rest of Australia, in South Australia, the container deposit scheme is just a way of life. It's an accepted way of life. And when pressed on the issue in media interviews, Coca-Cola has been unable to substantiate its claims that its sales have suffered due to the South Australian scheme. It doesn't matter which way you look at it, Madam Speaker, a container deposit scheme just makes sense. It leads to less pollution. It means that the iconic Bondi Beach could be spared from 30,000 bottles and cans left behind every year, not to mention every other beach in New South Wales and Australia. It can lead to more money for local charities, it can lead to more direct and indirect jobs, it can lead to a direct cost savings for our local councils. I'd like to ensure all the participants in this debate, the environmental organisations, the political parties, the business lobby, and most importantly the very sensible people of New South Wales that support this policy, that I'm working hard to ensure that New South Wales will indeed have a container deposit scheme.
The Parliamentary Secretary in reply.
Madam Acting Speaker, can I commend the member for Coogee for raising the container deposit scheme once again, a scheme that I have publicly said that has my support. I think our government is still trying to come to terms with the logistics of the scheme, but certainly it is a worthwhile scheme. But can I say this, that last week I awarded Les Dolan, a constituent of mine who I've spoken before about in this House, with a Community Recognition Award from this government for his work that he does, wandering around the beautiful streets of Kurrajong and the Hawkesbury electorate, picking up other people's rubbish. And I make this point that I think it is absolutely appalling and a blight on our society that there are people who discard rubbish. I mean, we should not have to have a container deposit scheme, because people should have the responsibility to pick up their rubbish, to take it with them and to displace it appropriately like responsible people do.